Hello, boys and girls, and those who bounce in between. It's Comrade Danky here with some important news from my town, the city of Memphis. Some shit's going down, folks. I made a video in the past about Memphis's history with racial discrimination. Of course, Memphis was a giant hub in the slave trade. It was pretty much a slave depot from the north to New Orleans. Memphis was also, of course, the home where Martin Luther King was shot. Going back in time a little bit before that, during the Civil War, shortly after, Memphis was captured by the Union. Black Union soldiers clashed with Irish immigrants, and the bourgeois class of Memphis pitted these two working class sectors against one another and sparked a race. They call it a riot, but it was really a very one-sided lynch mob where many black people were killed and driven out of the city. So Memphis has always had a race problem, even though it's 60-something% black. It's a very black city. But you have issues. You have issues with the statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest being taken down. Sparked a lot of anger from the Chuds and from the white supremacists that are enshrined in this country and in the state. You had the Nashville elite trying to punish the city of Memphis by cutting our budget after we took the statue down. And then in the latest saga of all of this, we have on Wednesday at least 24 officers injured in Memphis unrest after U.S. Marshals fatally shoot a young black man. So once again, another young black man is shot and killed by cops. So let's see the video here.
What sign it go to?
And let me just preface this by saying that the Memphis Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board has been trying to get in contact with Memphis police so that there can be some kind of transparency or accountability to the Memphis police and their community. But the MPD has shown zero interest in cooperating with the Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board. So how else are we supposed to address our grievances with the system besides protesting? That's what I would ask the mayor of Memphis. That's what I would ask all these people who are coming out of the woodwork to defend these cops. How the fuck are we supposed to address our grievances when the cops won't listen to us? Look at those pigs shooting pepper spray at folks. It says police said Brandon Weber was being served a multiple felony warrants.
He reportedly rammed his vehicle into the officers' vehicles multiple times before exiting with a weapon. The officers fired, striking and killing the individual. No officers were injured.
Until I see some fucking video or some dash cam footage or some kind of evidence for that, I don't believe a fucking thing these pigs say. And I don't think anybody else should either. This day and age, so many young black men are just killed by cops, execution style, and then afterward, evidence is planted and guilt is assumed, and these cops are rehabilitated in the media. They're rehabilitated by their fellow cops who cover for them. So obviously we need like a separate investigation, a civilian-led investigation into this event. But no, I don't believe the cops until they show some kind of evidence that the kid actually did, have his weapon drawn and stuff. I don't believe them, and I don't think you should either. I don't think the people of Memphis should believe it either. We see Memphians rallying in solidarity. At least 24 officers were injured by thrown rocks. Big whoop. You know, a young black man, another young black man has been killed by cops in this country. Forgive me for not giving a shit if 24 officers get injured by thrown rocks. Shattered some windows on a cop car. And of course, we see the grieving families. We see grieving people. So this was from the Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness. The video is from Allie Karen. So thank you, Allie Karen, for providing this. And this was June 13th, so today, basically. News that U.S. Marshal Service officer had fatally shot a young black man in Memphis triggered chaotic protests late Wednesday that caused widespread property damage and left at least 24 police officers injured by thrown concrete rocks. Once again, I say big whoop. The aggression shown towards these cops pales in comparison to the sheer level of aggression the cops show every single day to the black community in this city and in cities all over the country. So that being said, let's hear from old Mayor Jim Strickland. It says, "Let me be clear, the aggression showed towards our officers and deputies tonight was unwarranted." Unwarranted? Well, forgive me, Jim Strickland, but I don't agree. I think it was entirely warranted. How many young black people have to be killed by cops in this country before black people can be expected to rise up, demand some accountability, demand some fucking justice? To deny them that, to deny them a sort of transparency for the MPD to basically shit all over this Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board and say thanks but no thanks, we don't care about you guys, we don't care about being held accountable to the civilians of the city we're supposed to be protecting and serving. It says other local politicians though urged patience and demanded thorough investigation into the killing. Obviously, but here's the thing. We don't need pigs investigating pigs, all right? We need civilians investigating the pigs. We have let me go here. A Memphis Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board. Ladies and gentlemen, every single major city in the United States should have one of these. The Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board, CLERB, is an independent agency with the authority to investigate allegations of misconduct filed by citizens of the public against the Memphis Police Department. CLERB has the power to receive, investigate, hear cases, make findings, and recommend action on complaints regarding excessive and deadly force, injuries occurred while in police custody, harassment by police, improper arrests. After all, this guy was being served a warrant. And forgive me for not believing the officers' accounts. I mean, of course, our brave, noble boys in blue would never lie to cover their own ass. That never happens. Inadequate investigations or any other improper conduct by a member of MPD. All complaints are thoroughly investigated and findings are reported to the Memphis Police Department. But see, here's the problem, folks. The buck stops ultimately with the pigs. The pigs are allowed to do this shit. The Law Enforcement Review Board, led by civilians, are allowed to make recommendations. But ultimately, it's up to the pigs to decide whether or not to hold their fellow officers to task. And do you honestly believe they have a vested interest in doing that? So, of course, you can see the Law Enforcement Review Board overwhelmingly people of color, overwhelmingly women, people who want to address their grievances. But yeah, Memphis just shits all over them. MPD doesn't give a flying fuck. Let's see this CLERB's letter to Memphis mayor and council. This was May 10th, 2008, a letter to Mayor Jim Strickland. Dear Mayor Jim Strickland and Memphis City Council, the Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board has run into two major obstacles which prevent it from accomplishing its goals. First, letters from the MPD director and letters to the director of police are not being posted on the website as the ordinance requires. Second, Director Rawlings is all but ignoring the board's recommendations. The first issue is one where I believe we have an agreement. The accordance, as passed, calls for all decisions by the board and all responses from the police director to the board to be posted on our website. You know, a little thing called transparency. This and the subpoena power are the meat of the transparency, but not a power grab legislation as it currently stands. Alright, let's talk about that transparency, but not a power grab. Why the fuck shouldn't the civilians have the ultimate say when it comes to the prosecution of police officers? In what fucking universe is it considered not a conflict of interest to have officers ultimately determining the fault of other officers? But that's beside the point. The second issue in the letter, the second issue goes to the core of the transparency but not a power grab aspect of the ordinance. This legislation depends on a reasonable board and a reasonable police director to come together and come up with solutions to issues, which, if unattended, will further the trust gap between our city's poorest residents and their police and government. Why do you think we're seeing this kind of stuff? Why do you think we're seeing people rioting, throwing rocks at pigs? Because the pigs are ignoring us. We don't trust them. CLERB is to make non-binding decisions, and the police director is tasked with rendering a decision that is supposed to be placed on CLERB's website, so civilians can see the board's work and the director's decisions. If Director Rawlings were accepting parts of our opinion while rejecting others, the system of compromise would be well at work. Once again, I don't think the police should have the position to compromise with the civilians. I think the civilians should have ultimate power over the cops. I think it's just fucking stupid that the cops are allowed to compromise with the civilians. No, there should be no fucking compromise. Civilians should be in total absolute authority over the police of this city. They should not be a separate class that's protected and reinforced by the government of this city and by themselves. Continuing with the letter, the political fight should have ended the day the revised ordinance for CLERB passed, but unfortunately, Director Rawlings has chosen to continue the debate by attempting to render the board ineffective by rejecting all of our recommendations. Some of these cases involved unquestionable video footage. It is beyond absurd that none of our recommendations have been accepted. The members of CLERB volunteer our time, and currently it's being wasted. CLERB needs one of four things to take place before our board can be effective. 1. Director Rawlings must be reasonable and at least meet us in the middle of our decisions. Compromise. Yeah, that's not going to happen, friends. I can tell you that right now. 2. A new police director who will work with us. Yeah, that might be the way to go, folks. Just call for Rawlings to fucking step down. He's a chud. Number 3, a new ordinance that gives CLERB binding decision-making power, which I also think we need. 4, an amendment to the current ordinance which gives appellate power to the mayor over police directors' decisions. 2, 3, and 4. We need to do this here and now. This is the way we make Memphis a better, safer city, and we heal this trust gap between the working class of Memphis and the pigs. You want to bring peace to the city of Memphis? You want to nip this little resistance to the cops in the bud right here? Do this. A new police director who will work with us. A new ordinance that gives CLERB binding decision-making power, and an amendment to the current ordinance which gives appellate powers to the mayor over police directors' decisions. Take the power away from the pigs because it's going to their heads. It says we specifically did not request option 3 to be included in the current ordinance because we did not think it was necessary. However, if number 1 nor number 2 or 4 are met, the only option will be to making CLERB an effective board. It will be the only option to making CLERB an effective board. City Council should not have revived CLERB if it only wanted a dog and pony show, because that's what it fucking is, folks. Members of CLERB are not interested in spending our volunteer hours working on ineffective and pointless board, and elected officials should not pretend to strengthen such a needed board only for good optics and only to be ignored later when immediate electoral gains are no longer present. You hear that, Jim Strickland? You fucking hear that? Help out your constituents here. CLERB formally requests meetings with both the mayor's office and city council. The above requests are urgently needed. Memphis has not experienced anything like what has been seen in Ferguson, Charlotte, Los Angeles. At least not at that time, but now it's happening, folks. You know, I don't know what fucking Rawlings thought it was going to be. We live in a city that's 60% black. Racial tensions are charged as fuck. So yeah, when a cop kills a black guy in the city of Memphis, there's gonna be retaliation against the cops. Duh. What did you morons think was gonna happen when you rejected the fucking Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board? You don't give the people of Memphis any other means to address their grievances. You don't give them fucking legal means, so they're gonna riot. It's obvious. It's obvious to anybody with a fucking brain inside their head. Jim Strickland, you need to fucking be the mayor and take charge of this situation. Call your fucking pigs off, dude. The pigs have gone rabid, and it's time to reel them back in. The community wants answers into tonight's incident, said State Rep Antonio Parkinson, who also called for a complete transparency in the investigation of tonight's officer-involved shooting. The shooting happened around 7 p.m. Wednesday night in Frayser, very poor neighborhood, a neighborhood less than 5 miles north of downtown Memphis. The man killed, who was identified by family members and local officials as they killed a 20-year-old kid, Brandon Weber. Was being served multiple felony warrants by the Marshal Service Gulf Coast Regional Fugitive Task Force and other law enforcement agencies. Weber rammed into the marshal's car with his own car several times and then displayed a weapon, according to TBI. Forgive me for not buying that. Give me some fucking evidence first, and then maybe I'll believe it. But until then, put up or shut up, TBI. Kelly McAllister, spokeswoman for the Bureau, said in a news conference early Thursday that it was unclear how many marshals had fired at Weber. How do you not know? Jesus Christ, how many times did you shoot him? This remains a very fluid situation. What the fuck does that mean? What does this mean? What kind of fucking just buzzword bullshit is this? This remains a very fluid situation. Oh, TBI, it's not looking like a very fucking fluid situation from where I'm standing and where a majority of Memphians are standing. It's looking like some fucking pigs on a power trip was serving this kid a warrant and they just shot him the fuck up. It says the Bureau said in a statement that it would not name any officers involved in the shooting, and the U.S. Marshal Service said it would not release names until all investigations were over. But once again, the U.S. Marshal Service is the one doing the investigation. The people who shot the kid are the ones investigating. The MPD said none of its officers were involved. But of course, until they give the names or say something, we don't know that. Once again, I don't fucking trust the MPD with a 10-foot pole. I don't trust them. I don't think Memphians should either until we get a law enforcement review board with a transparent panel and we get some oversight. Demetric Skinner, a cousin of Weber's, and Shelby County's Commissioner Tommy Sawyer each said that Weber was shot as many as 20 times before dying in his family's front yard. Jesus Christ. You know, one time, sure. 2 times, yeah, maybe. But 20 fucking times you shoot this kid? Jesus. According to the Daily Memphian, Yolanda Holmes, his aunt, told the Daily Memphian that the family was trying to confirm what exactly happened. This is crazy, Skinner, his cousin told the outlet. Earlier on Wednesday night, a man posted a video of Twitter of him confronting police officers who had formed a barricade in the street. My cousin is down there laying in the street, the man yelled, laying in the yard. As night fell and news of the shooting began to spread throughout, Frayser protests broke out, resulting in a standoff between authorities and hundreds of inflamed residents. On one side, police stood shoulder to shoulder, holding riot shields. On the other were angry crowds, shouting at the officers. Some protesters hurled bottles, rocks, and bricks, police said. One instance captured on social media, protesters used a chair to smash out the back window of a police car. Another man appears to spit at officers. Once again, I asked the fuck yeah.
What sign it go to?
This is a legitimate grievance that the people of Memphis are showing to the corrupt and callous law enforcement review board. They are every bit justified. They are every bit entitled to this anger. They are every bit entitled to this anger.
You know what's going on? Fuck you talking about? And I'm on
This guy is brave as fuck, dude. This guy's got balls. Mad respect for that guy. So anyway, police eventually fired tear gas into the area, which dispersed the crowd. A late-night rainstorm further emptied the streets. In a statement released early Thursday, Strickland said at least 24 officers and deputies were injured, with 6 taken to the hospital for treatment. He added that 2 journalists were also injured. I wonder by who, though? The fucking pigs. WREG's Luke Jones said he was knocked to the ground after a man ran up and punched him in the head, while Rebecca Butcher of Local 24 tweeted that her photographer was also hit by someone in the crowd. Alright, so let's see.
Well, good evening there, Rudy. We're the only crew here on this section of Overton Crossing here in the Frayser area. As you can see, it's a very tense situation. As you can see, we know that right now all of this is stemming from a shooting that happened earlier today.
Once again, I'm saying, the post says, stay classy, Memphis, shake my head. How the fuck are these people supposed to react? Alright, let me tell you this, fucking Fox 10. How the fuck are people supposed to react when black kids get shot in the streets, the cops get away with it scot-free almost every time? Because the Law Enforcement Review Board has no fucking power in this city, and the cops are essentially put in charge of prosecuting themselves. So how the fuck else are we supposed to act? Oh, we're supposed to be quiet and sit down and be orderly and mannerly and fucking address this like civilized people? Well, no, because we tried that already with the Civilian Law Enforcement Review Board. So we have to fucking take to the streets. And I'm not calling for violence against cops. I hate that cops got hit with rocks and are sent to the hospital. But what I'm trying to say in this video is that The cops can't be expected to act like fucking fascists, just executing people in the street trying to serve them warrants, and then just act shocked and chagrined when the black community rises up. I don't know, maybe they're tired of cops killing them in their fucking front yards, shooting them with 20 fucking bullets in their front yard, in front of their families. So yeah, every single one of these people who are harassing this reporter, they are expressing anger. They are expressing their grievances. This is Memphis right here. This is what the fucking mayorship and leadership of the Memphis city and its corrupt as fuck police department have brought. This anger didn't just come up out of nothing. This anger isn't because Memphians aren't classy. This anger is purely because of police brutality and just this complete lack of transparency. Let's see. Strickland said multiple police cars were also vandalized. A concrete wall outside a business was torn down and windows were broken at a local fire station. The mayor praised first responders. I'm impressed by the professionalism and incredible restraint as they endured concrete rocks being thrown at them and people spitting at them. You know, Jim Strickland, the cops aren't the good guys here. I don't know what fucking universe you live in, but here in the city of Memphis, you need to take the side of the fucking Memphians instead of the cops. I'm impressed by their professionalism. Oh, what part? When they fucking shot a black kid 20 times in his front yard? Was that very professional? Was that showing restraint? Oh, they endured concrete rocks being thrown at them and people spitting at them. Poor babies. You know, it's not like the black community lives in terror every single fucking day from the police. Community and national leaders called for healing and justice. The NAACP said it was closely monitoring reports out of Frayser. Sawyer, a Democrat and progressive activist who was running for mayor in October election, pleaded for the public not to pass judgment on Frayser without asking a community how it feels to mourn their youth over and over again. So yeah, you fucking local 24 reporter who said keep it classy Memphis, try asking the people of fucking Frayser how they feel to mourn their youth over and over and over again. What do people do with their pain and trauma when it gets too much? When a city has ignored them, Jim Strickland, as you continue to fucking praise the pigs for their professionalism and restraint, you're ignoring literally the whole fucking city. When their loss is too great and they can no longer yell at the sky. But sadness and anger served as the overwhelming feelings for community activist Hunter Dempster. He told at Memphis Commercial Appeal that Wednesday night's shooting should serve as another reminder of a broken public safety system. Every time I turned around, I saw another person with tears in their eyes, furious at another life lost, Dempster said. The unrest came a month after a man who was shot and critically injured by an MPD officer during a traffic stop last year was indicted on several charges. We'll take a look at that next in part 2. But a week-long protest broke out while 25-year-old Martavius Banks was on life support after the shooting. What, for a fucking... during a traffic stop? So yeah. This, I hate that this happened in my city. I hate that this happened in the city I live. I love this city. I hate its fucking leadership. You can see just how callous and corrupt they are. You can see how corrupt the MPD is. I'm trying to spread the good word about this. I'm trying to get people who may not have heard about this, because I live in this fucking city. I didn't hear about this until today. All right. This happened last night. I'm just now hearing about it. So, yeah. Stay tuned. I'm going to be covering this story in the future, doing my due diligence as a fellow Memphian, as someone who supports Black Lives Matter. I'm going to be doing my damnedest to highlight the corruption of the MPD and the political leadership of Memphis, and just show everybody just how much Mayor Jim Strickland really cares about black people in this town.